And we're back, everyone, and hello and welcome to IGTV. This is a production of New York City Metro Infraguard, and we are with Richard Horowitz. And Richard is talking about the Triangle Center report, and this is a follow-up on our weekly broadcast from last week. This is the impact segment, Richard, and this is where we want you to tell our members, what are some of these terrorist threats and plots that we've uncovered, and what can you tell us about it?
Well, I'll highlight three over the past year. One was Friday, a few days ago. Amin Al Khalifa was arrested. He was attempting to commit a suicide attack on the Capitol. The people he was involved with, he thought were Al Qaeda operatives that were under FBI undercover agents. He had been prepared with what he thought was a functioning automatic weapon and a suicide vest. His intention was to shoot the security guards at the Capitol, enter the building, and detonate. And he was arrested before he could do that. Several months ago, someone by the name of Rizwan Fardo was arrested. He had a plan to fly remote control planes into the Pentagon or into the Capitol. He had a degree in physics, and the plot was foiled because undercover work, FBI employed undercover agents to discover this plot. And in April 2011, talking about less than a year ago, Farouk Ahmed was arrested, convicted, sentenced to 23 years. He had planned to detonate explosives at 4 D.C. metro stations.
Well, this is all just to say that it's interesting is probably not putting it mildly. All right, some of this is very cautionary. All right, but I do recall in reading a lot of the media reports, Rich, in which they're saying, hey, none of this stuff is valid. The FBI is just setting everybody up. These are, they're kind of inviting people to the dance. This isn't real. All right, what would you say to that?
It's a misunderstanding of how the system works. There are a number of journalists and others who have been making the point, interviews and news articles, that all of these FBI undercover operations are really entrapment. That without the FBI, none of these people could have done what they were accused of doing. So therefore, it's in a sense entrapment. But the FBI provided them the means with doing these things, and without the FBI's involvement, these people would not be doing this. So the FBI is not uncovering plots, it's creating the plots. And these people are getting, people who maintain this position are getting exposure. On Al Jazeera on Friday, after they reported on this arrest, the person they interviewed espoused this position and moved on to something else. NPR several months ago interviewed this individual who was trying to argue that all this reflects is FBI putting these ideas in the minds of those who they arrest. The mistake in that is if you communicate to an undercover FBI agent that you're interested in committing an act of terrorism, and then the FBI follows up with you, that's not entrapment. The FBI didn't put the plan into your head. You're the one who communicated it to the agent. Entrapment is when government put the idea into your mind. Government had no reason to think that you were going to do anything, and they put the idea in your mind. So in the Rizwan Fardo case, he's from Bangladesh originally, an FBI undercover informant was at a mosque in Massachusetts and talking loudly enough to someone else about his criminal background. Fardo overheard him, walked up to him, and asked, "Since you have experience in this, how can I sit out and do some of these things as well?" Now that is an entrapment because Fardo was the one who approached the FBI agent. The FBI agent, the undercover informant, was there to see if Fardo would fall for it, but he did. So to call that entrapment, I think, is misunderstanding the point and misleading the public. And there's a lot of this going on. This is the latest trend in those trying to minimize what the threat is.
Well, we've got just about a minute to follow up here, but there is an important factor that you and I were talking about before off the air. All right, and that's the relevance of where the rubber really meets the road, the murder rate. All right, what can you get into? We've got about 30 seconds left. Go ahead.
People have been making the argument way even before September 11th that the chances of getting killed in a terrorist attack are less than getting killed by lightning, or the murder rate is significantly greater than the number of terrorist attacks. Again, that may or may not be true. Well, actually, in the case of the murder rate, it is true, but the numbers itself don't reflect the problem. The murder rate is not a coordinated effort by like-minded people. It's a sociological criminal problem. Criminologists, psychologists will deal with it. But the threat of terrorism doesn't go down because the murder rate goes up. America has a large population. There's a large high murder rate. When we deal with Islamic terrorists, they're all inspired and motivated by more or less the same beliefs. It's not I don't think it's a coincidence that Al Qaeda's English magazine, the name of that magazine was Inspire, because these people are inspired by the message that Al Qaeda and similar groups are trying to popularize. So the threat that this Islamic terrorism movement represents isn't any less because the number of murders per year goes up. It's not a function of murder. So when people say, look how many more murders we have than Islamic terrorism, well, first of all, as I explained, that's a fallacious argument. Number two, the law enforcement does what it can to deal with the murder rate, but it spends a lot of effort and resources foiling and combating these terrorist attacks before they take place. Were the FBI and other agencies not to do that, the number of attacks would skyrocket.
Yeah, and I guess subsequently we'd wind up with additional homicides as well, and we'd all be scratching our heads. Hey, how did all this happen? Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's always the sort of seems like the cat chasing his tail all the time. Understanding how law enforcement works both locally, statewide, and nationally, and internationally, and not everybody understands that. Not everybody is as deep into the woods as you are, and perhaps myself and others out there in the industry who kind of follow these events as much as we do. Richard, thank you very much, and we're going to see you on the next segment as we talk about some interesting things about what happened about that suicide attack near the Capitol in Washington, D.C. But that'll come up on another segment. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you again. Bye, everybody. See you soon.
Take care.